let's talk about black representation, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, okay? That's a term that's been tossed around a lot within the last few weeks, especially after that Supreme Court ruling coming down saying that states can no longer draw districts according to race, and which ultimately affected the Democratic Party in a negative way, right? Because the black community is absolutely the base of their voting bloc, and by creating these black-only districts, they were ensuring that they had the black vote unlocked within those states and within those particular districts. And now that the Supreme Court has ruled that states can no longer draw districts according to race, the Democratic Party, in an effort to rile up the black population, to emotionally manipulate them into voting for them, okay? They're tossing around that black people are losing their rights to vote, and that they are losing black representation. So let's talk about that. So before I get started on that, I just want to say that as I make these videos, I try to who am I appealing to? Who am I trying to have this conversation with? Okay, that's something that's been on my mind lately. I just want to address that before I get started about black representation. Now, of course, I try to appeal to my black brothers and sisters, friends and family, but I know black people. Okay, you can't tell black people nothing for the most part, right? Okay, so for most black people, they can't get beyond too black, too strong. Okay, everything they see is through the lens of being blacks, and you can't talk to them type of people because they are just too pro black. Okay, so I'm not gonna waste my time there. And then there are a lot of other black people that come into the understanding about the Democratic Party being the worst thing to happen for the community, and then they make the shift and the pivot themselves, right? And so, so when I try to understand, like, who am I trying to appeal to, what my audience should be, to be honest with you, I really want to appeal to those who consider themselves Christians, who are Bible believing Christians, okay? Because I know that there are a lot of white Christians who vote Democrat. There are a lot of black Christians who, of course, are Democrats, but they call themselves Christians, okay? So instead of appealing to a particular race, I just want to appeal to a person's faith with reason, okay? Because I am a Christian. I have been so for practically all my life. I love the Lord. I love the Bible. I am very well versed and read when it comes to the scriptures, okay, and walking this walk of faith as a Christian. So when I try to have these conversations on what's going on within our society, especially with these different Supreme Court rulings and what it means for us as a people, as Americans, okay, I absolutely want to appeal and my audience to be those who are Bible believing Christians, okay, especially when we going into the midterms and come voting time. As a Christian man, I don't see how those who call themselves Christians can support and vote for a Democratic Party whose whole agenda, whose whole platform, all their policies go against everything that as Christians we stand for, that as God stands for and explained and wrote out in the Bible, okay? When it comes to homosexuality, gay marriage, abortion, the killing of babies, right? Those are things that as Bible believing Christians we have to absolutely stand against. And before I get started on that, it just reminds me of in 2024 during the election cycle for president. I was sitting out on my porch. I said this before in one of my previous videos. I was sitting out on my porch, and this elderly black lady was going door to door campaigning for Kamala Harris. And so when she came to me, You know, I already knew what she was on. And so we got to talk, and she's trying to run a spiel about who am I voting for and this and that. So I shut her down real quick. I asked her if she was a Christian. She said yes. I asked her, does she love the Lord Jesus? She said yes, she does. And I said, well, how do you feel about abortion? She said she doesn't agree with that. I said, how do you think Jesus feels about abortion? She agreed that she don't think the Lord is accepting of abortion. I said, well, why are you out here campaigning for a political party that, you know, just recently had a mobile abortion unit at the DNC rally, and they're pushing for not just late term abortion, but even abortion after birth, okay? And so that caught her, okay? I said, how can you be doing that? You're coming into an alignment. You just got done saying that you don't agree with abortion, that you know that the Lord Jesus wouldn't be accepting of it, but yet you're out here campaigning for a political party who's all about abortion, right? And her answer was to that, well, Donald Trump, see that right there? See, that is how the Democratic Party has been able to emotionally manipulate black people to vote against their very own conservative standards, Christian faith, right? They emotionally manipulate people, and they're saying that Donald Trump is the enemy. He's racist. He hates black people, and we got to vote against him. And in voting against Donald Trump, we're supporting abortion and gay marriage and transgender, all this perverted lifestyle that go against our Christian faith. Okay, and so let's talk about black representation. And so, just for an example of that, I wrote down a few. The so-called black, wait for this delivery driver go through, this so-called black representation. It's you know, black people got this thing, and this is why the Democratic Party push it off, because we seem to think that because somebody is black, that they will have our interests in mind as black people, and that is so far from the truth. It's laughable, okay? That's why when they always say black people should support black-owned businesses, okay? But then, because, you know, that's black representation of black business, but then when you when you take your money to these black-owned business, you get shoddy service, poor quality products, attitude, everything. It's just not worth it, and that's why black-owned businesses, for the most part, don't prosper, and why most black people will not take their money to so-called black-owned businesses. Okay, just because somebody is of the, you know, same skin color doesn't mean that they have the overall community's best interest at heart. But the Democratic Party are experts at selling this lie to the black community. You know, hey, you know, vote for your own people, because once they get in power, they'll help you, right? And it's so not the case, okay? And so I wrote down a couple here. You know, these black representation politicians who have been in Congress for decades and have done nothing at all whatsoever to improve the living standards of black people within their districts or the district as a whole. You got Jim Clyburn. He's been a state representative for 6th district for South Carolina, currently serving his 17th term since 1993. Okay. Maxine Waters since 1991. And so when you look at these so-called black representative politicians within their districts, they've been there for decades and have done nothing, absolutely nothing, to improve the welfare of the people within their districts. You can go online, do the research yourself. It's well known, but yet these so-called black representative politicians steady get reelected upon the lie and the myth that, hey, vote for me, black people, and I got your back. It's just not the case. It's a lie. Look at Barack Obama, right? Barack Obama for 8 years did absolutely nothing to improve black America. He didn't pass no type of laws. He didn't do any type of reparations, no black hate crime bill, nothing. He improved the lives for the homosexual community, right? Of course, right? And he had the Congress. He had the Senate. He had all the power at his disposal to be able to pass some type of laws or whatever to specifically target the welfare of the black community, and he didn't. He didn't even fund HBCUs like Donald Trump did. So when you look at these principles and these standards when it comes to so-called black representation, it's a myth. And that's why I try to appeal to those who are white Christians who vote Democratic, because I know for the most part you think that the Democratic Party is about for the people, okay? And then especially when you try to throw in the fact of the plight of the black community, and you're thinking that you're doing something positive, and you're not at all, you know. And I just want to say that it's just a lie that the Democratic Party has been using to emotionally manipulate the community for decades into keeping them in power, okay? And so even with, let's look at the most recent one with Jasmine Crockett. She did nothing for her district when she was in Congress. Her whole spiel was just hate Trump, bash ICE. It was all that. She didn't introduce any type of policies or bills that was going to help the people within her district at all. Absolutely at all. You know, she got gerrymandered out of her position, thank God. And so that's what I'm saying. When it comes down to this issue of black representation, it's a farce and it's a myth. I like to appeal to those who are Bible-believing Christians who may be voting Democrat. Please look into that, because you're coming into alignment with a party that does nothing for the black community at all. It's all about things that we as Christians, as Bible-believing Christians, God-fearing people, Jesus-loving disciples of the Lord, can't come into an agreement with, especially when it comes to the issues of abortion and transgenderism and homosexuality and so on. You could just go down the list of these things. And we know the Democratic Party try to word these ungodly principles into making it seem, you know, like women's health care, you know, stuff like that, which is abortion. Come on, call it what it is, right? And so I'll wrap it up. I'll leave it there. I feel like I just went on a rambling thing, but you know, these are things that I just really feel are passionate about when it comes to my people, just to all people, really. You know, these things help us all as Americans. You know, the shutting down of these racially driven districts, this helps us all, because that's discrimination, okay? And so I'm glad this is happening. I just want to reassure my black friends and family, you're not losing any type of rights, and if you do lose the so-called black representation, we all know just because you vote somebody black in the office don't mean that they're going to do anything for black people. Everybody knows, and this is a well-known thing in the black community. We already know that. So just so you know, we should be voting for people not based on race or gender, but based on their qualifications, right? It just makes sense to me. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, hit me with a subscribe, a like, and a comment. I welcome it all. So until next time.